The transport ship broke through the orange clouds of 7, and Captain pressed her face closer to the viewing window. The planet below glowed like a hot coal. Rivers of molten rock carved bright lines across the dark surface. The air itself seemed to shimmer with heat waves, even from orbit. "That's where we're going," Yang Park asked from beside her. He was young, barely 25, but he had steady hands and a sharp mind for machines. Had personally requested him for this mission. "That's where we're going," confirmed. She checked her data pad. The surface temperature read 147 degrees, and that was in the shade. Bora stood behind them, arms crossed. She was their security officer, tall and silent, always watching. The briefing said they built their mining colony here because no other species wanted it. "Too hot," said, "even for them." The transport landed on a metal platform that extended from the side of a massive structure built into a mountain. Everything was metal and stone. Nothing green or living existed here. The three humans stepped out, and the heat hit them like a physical wall. Felt sweat immediately begin to form on her skin. Good. That meant her body was working properly. She adjusted her uniform jacket and walked forward. A group of aliens waited for them. They looked like walking lizards, tall and covered in dark green scales. Their eyes were yellow with vertical pupils. They wore military uniforms with cooling tubes running along the seams. Small devices on their belts hummed quietly, pumping cold fluid through those tubes. The largest stepped forward. "I am Admiral, commander of this facility." His voice was rough and deep. He looked at the three humans with obvious doubt in his eyes. "You are the human engineers." "Captain," she said, extending her hand. The Admiral looked at it but did not take it. She lowered her hand without showing offense. "This is Yang Park, our engineer and Bora security." "You are smaller than I expected," Admiral said. "More fragile looking." "Looks can be deceiving," replied calmly. The Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Come, I will show you why you have wasted your time traveling here." They walked through corridors that felt like the inside of an oven. The walls radiated heat. Noticed that they moved slowly, conserving energy. Their cooling suits worked constantly. Every few minutes, they passed through chambers where the temperature dropped significantly and they would stop to rest. Yang wiped sweat from his forehead. Bora had removed her jacket and tied it around her waist, but they kept walking without asking for breaks. Admiral noticed this. His eyes narrowed slightly. They entered a control room carved from solid rock. Screens covered the walls, showing various parts of the mining operation, but many screens flashed red with warning symbols. "This is Chief Engineer," Admiral said, gesturing to another who stood before a large display. "Explain our problem." Touched the screen and a three-dimensional image appeared. It showed a massive reactor deep underground. "Our thermal reactor powers everything," said. "It takes heat from the planet's core and converts it to energy. 3 days ago, something failed. The reactor chamber is now heating beyond control." "What's the temperature?" asked. 185 degrees, said, "and rising." Yang whistled softly. "That's hot." "It is impossible," Admiral said firmly. No one can survive in that heat. We have tried sending our best soldiers. They collapsed in 3 minutes. We tried using robots, but the heat melts their circuits. We tried remote repairs, but the systems do not respond. Someone needs to go inside, asked. Yes, said. 3 control nodes must be manually recalibrated. It requires intelligence and careful work. It cannot be rushed. Estimated time to complete, 15 minutes. 15 minutes at 185 degrees, Boras said quietly. Admiral turned to face them fully. This is why I told your human council that sending you was pointless. You are water-based life forms. You need constant hydration. You are soft, with no scales or shells for protection. Humans come from a gentle world with moderate temperatures. This problem requires a species built for extreme heat. You do not have such species. Said nothing for a moment. She looked at the screen showing the failing reactor. She thought about the 3,000 who lived in this colony. She thought about the mining ships in orbit, trapped because they could not refuel without the reactor. Show me the exact specifications, she said. I want to see everything about that reactor chamber. Admiral made that laughing sound again. You may look, but you will see it is impossible. This is not an insult to your species, Captain. This is simply physics. No one can endure this heat. No one. They spent the next hour reviewing data. The reactor chamber was large, roughly 20 meters across. The 3 control nodes were positioned at different points around the room. Each one required precise adjustments using physical tools. The work could not be done quickly without risking catastrophic failure. Yang leaned close to the foundry back home he whispered. Summer shift. Remember what the temperatures were. I remember, said. Bora joined them. Desert training, she said softly. Mojave, midday exercises. Nodded slowly. She turned to Admiral. I want to attempt the repair. The control room went silent. Every turned to stare at her. Impossible, Admiral said. Respectfully, Admiral, you don't know what humans can do. I know physics. I know biology. I know that soft, water-filled creatures cannot survive 185 degrees for 15 minutes. His voice was hard now. I will not send you to your death. It would create a diplomatic incident. Under the Exchange Accord, Article 7, I have the right to volunteer for any duty I deem myself qualified for, said. You cannot stop me. Admiral's scales seemed to darken. His cooling suit hummed louder. If you die, your people will blame me. If I die, my people will know I made my own choice, said. But I won't die. The Admiral stared at her for a long time. Finally, he spoke. You will wear a cooling suit, maximum protection. That is not negotiable. Agreed, said. You will be monitored every second. If your vital signs show distress, we will pull you out. Agreed. And I will personally write the report explaining this foolish decision. Smiled. I look forward to reading it, Admiral, after the reactor is fixed. Admiral turned to prepare the descent. If the human wants to face the fire, we will let her try. He looked back at, May your gentle earth gods protect you, Captain. You will need them. Said nothing. She did not need gods. She had something better. She had 4 billion years of evolution on a planet that tried to kill everything that lived on it. She had human endurance, human adaptability, and human stubbornness. And she had the one thing no other species in the galaxy seemed to have. She could sweat. The preparation room was cooler than the rest of the facility. Stood while two technicians fitted her with their cooling suit. The suit was designed for a body, so it hung awkwardly on her shorter frame. Tubes pressed against her arms and legs in uncomfortable ways. Yang adjusted his monitoring equipment. "I'll be watching your heart rate, body temperature, and oxygen levels," he said. "If anything looks wrong, I'm telling them to pull you out." "I'll be fine," said. "You're walking into an oven that killed trained soldiers in 3 minutes. They're not human." Bora handed a water bottle. "Drink all of it. You'll need every drop." Drank. The water was cold and tasted slightly metallic. She finished the entire bottle, then drank another. Her body would need the hydration. Chief Engineer entered, carrying 3 tools. They looked like metal rods with various attachments. "These are calibration tools," he explained. "Each control node requires a different tool. You must insert them precisely and turn them according to the readings on the node display. Do you understand?" "Show me," said. Demonstrated on a practice panel. The movements were simple but required steady hands. Turn too far and the system would lock up. Turn too little and the calibration would fail. Practiced until nodded with approval. "You have good hands," said. "Steady. That is important." He paused. "But hands mean nothing if you cannot stay conscious in the heat." Admiral entered the room. He looked at in the cooling suit and shook his head. "Last chance to change your mind, Captain. No one will think less of you." "Will the reactor fix itself?" asked. "No." "Then someone has to do this. It might as well be me." "Might as well be the human," Admiral muttered. Madness. But there was something different in his eyes now. Not quite respect, but perhaps curiosity. They took an elevator down. The shaft went straight through solid rock for almost 2 kilometers. The temperature gauge on the wall climbed steadily. 40 degrees, 60 degrees, 80 degrees, 100. Felt the cooling suit working harder. The tubes against her skin grew colder as the suit tried to compensate for the rising heat. But the suit was not designed for human biology. It cooled in the wrong places and restricted her movement. 2 soldiers accompanied them. They were rescue specialists, trained to pull people from dangerous situations. Both wore heavy cooling suits and carried medical equipment. One of them was Lieutenant, the team leader. He had not spoken a single word to. The elevator stopped. The doors opened to a tunnel that glowed red. Heat waves made the air shimmer. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with warmth. 140 degrees here, said. The reactor chamber is ahead through that access corridor. They walked forward. Each step felt heavier. The cooling suit's pump worked at maximum power, making a high-pitched whine. The soldiers moved slowly, conserving their strength. Felt sweat beginning to form under the cooling suit. Good. Her body was responding correctly. The suit was trying to keep her cold, but her natural systems were preparing for the heat. They reached a thick metal door. Red warning lights flashed around it. A screen showed the temperature beyond, 178 degrees. "The reactor chamber is beyond this door," said. "The control nodes are marked with blue lights. You will see them easily. Work as quickly as you can, but do not rush. Mistakes will cause system failure." "I understand," said. Admiral watched from the control room via cameras mounted on their helmets. His voice came through their communication devices. "Captain, your vital signs are already elevated. Are you certain about this?" "I'm certain," said. She looked at the door. Behind it was heat that had defeated the strongest warriors. Behind it was a challenge that the Admiral believed was impossible for any species to overcome. Reached up and began removing the cooling suit. "What are you doing?" asked sharply. "The suit doesn't fit right," said, pulling off the upper portion. "It's designed for biology, not human. It restricts my movement and I need to work fast." "You will die without cooling," Lieutenant spoke for the first time. His voice was flat. Removed the rest of the suit. She now wore only her tank top and work pants. She pulled her hair back into a tight knot. "I'll be fine." "This is suicide," said. Through the communication device, Admiral's voice was sharp. "Captain, put the suit back on. That is an order." "You're not my commanding officer, Admiral," said calmly. She picked up the 3 calibration tools. "The suit will slow me down. I need full mobility." "You are insane," the Admiral said. "No one can endure this heat. No one." Looked directly at the camera mounted on Lieutenant's shoulder. She smiled. "I'm not no one, Admiral, I'm human." She turned to the door. "Open it." Hesitated, then pressed the control panel. The door slid open with a sound like a sigh. Heat rolled out like a living thing. It hit in the face, in the chest, everywhere at once. The air itself burned. She could feel it in her lungs with every breath. They stepped back immediately. Even with their cooling suits, they could not stand close to the open door. He walked forward. She stepped into the reactor chamber, and the door closed behind her. The heat was incredible. It wrapped around her like a blanket made of fire. Sweat broke out across her entire body within seconds. Her heart rate jumped. Her breathing quickened. But she did not stop. The chamber was exactly as the diagrams had shown. Large, circular, with metal walls that glowed dull red. In the center, massive machines hummed and throbbed. Pipes as thick as tree trunks carried superheated plasma. The floor itself was hot enough that she could feel it through her boots. 3 blue lights marked the control nodes. They were positioned around the room, each requiring her to walk through different sections of the chamber. Move to the first node. Her skin felt like it was on fire, but that was just sensation. Pain was just a signal. She could work through signals. She inserted the first calibration tool and watched the display. Numbers scrolled across the screen. She turned the tool slowly, carefully, watching the readings change. When the numbers entered the green zone, she stopped and locked the tool in place. 1 down. In the control room, Yang watched his monitors with wide eyes. Her body temperature is 102 degrees, he said. Heart rate 130. Pull her out, Admiral commanded. Wait, Yang said. Look at her movement. She's steady. She's working. On the screens, they watched move to the second control node. She walked with purpose, not stumbling or showing signs of heat exhaustion. Sweat poured down her face and arms, but her hands remained steady. How is this possible? Whispered. I don't know, Yang said, but she's doing it. Reached the second node. This one required the most complex calibration. She had to make 3 separate adjustments while keeping the readings balanced. If any number went too high or too low, the entire sequence would fail. Her vision blurred slightly from the heat. She blinked away sweat and focused on the display. Turn, watch, adjust. Turn, watch, adjust. The heat was incredible, pushing against her like a physical weight. But she had felt heat before. Summer days in Korea working outside, training exercises in the desert, the foundry where Yang's family had worked for generations. This was just more of the same, just hotter, just longer. She locked the second node in place. 2 down. 8 minutes, Yang reported. She's been in there for 8 minutes. Admiral said nothing. He stared at the screen, watching the small human move through heat that should have killed her long ago. Reached the third control node. This was the farthest from the door, deep in the chamber where the heat was strongest. The display showed 187 degrees here. She inserted the final tool. Her hands shook slightly now, not from fear or pain, but from pure physical exertion. Her body was working at maximum capacity, cooling itself through sweat, maintaining consciousness through sheer determination. The numbers on the display moved. She turned the tool, watching them change. Almost there. Almost. The numbers hit the green zone. She locked the tool. All 3 nodes were calibrated. The reactor responded immediately. The humming changed pitch. The red glow of the walls began to fade. The temperature started to drop. Turned and walked back to the door. Each step was deliberate. She would not run. She would not show weakness. The door opened and she stepped through. They stared at her in complete silence. She was drenched in sweat, her clothes soaked through. Her face was red from the heat, but she stood upright and conscious. Reactor stable, said, checking his data pad. His voice shook slightly. All nodes calibrated correctly, temperature dropping. Leaned against the wall. Water, she said, and salt tablets if you have them. Lieutenant handed her a container. She drank deeply. Through the communication device, Admiral's voice was quiet. 11 minutes and 30 seconds. You were in there for 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Was that fast enough? Asked. You should be dead, the Admiral said. Smiled, but I'm not. The medical bay was cold. Sat on an examination table while a doctor ran scanners over her body. The doctor kept making confused clicking sounds with his tongue. Your internal temperature is already normal, the doctor said. Heart rate returning to baseline. No organ damage. No tissue burns. He looked at his scanner as if it had malfunctioned. How is this possible? I cooled down, said simply. She had showered and changed into clean clothes. She felt tired but fine. A good meal and a night's sleep would restore her completely. You were exposed to 187 degrees for nearly 12 minutes, the doctor said. The soldiers who attempted this task suffered severe burns in 3 minutes. Some required organ replacement. You have not even blistered. Yang sat in the corner, reviewing data on his tablet. It's the sweating, he said. Humans are one of the few species that cool through water evaporation. Many species sweat, the doctor objected. Not like humans, Yang said. We have over 2 million sweat glands covering our body. When we're hot, we release water through our skin. As that water evaporates, it carries heat away from our body. It's extremely efficient. Bora entered carrying a tray of food. Eat, she told. You lost a lot of water weight. The food was cuisine, mostly protein and minerals. It tasted strange, but her body needed the calories. Admiral arrived with chief engineer. The Admiral looked at for a long moment. Then he did something had never seen a do. He removed his rank insignia from his uniform and held it in his hands. It was a gesture of deep respect in culture. Captain, the Admiral said slowly, I owe you an apology. I called your species fragile. I said you came from a gentle world. I said no one could endure the heat. He placed his insignia over his heart. I was wrong. You didn't know, said. Most species don't understand what humans can do. We're new to the galaxy. Tell me about your Earth, Admiral said. I wish to understand. Set down her food. Earth has extreme temperature variation. In some places, it can be minus 40 degrees in winter and plus 40 degrees in summer. That's an 80-degree range in the same location. The doctor made a choking sound. 80 degrees in one location. Yes, said. And we have deserts where it reaches 55 degrees during the day. We have frozen tundras where it drops to minus 50. We have jungles with 100% humidity. We have mountains where the air is so thin you can barely breathe. And humans live in all these places? Asked. Yes, Yang said. Humans have adapted to almost every environment on Earth. We're not the strongest species. We're not the fastest, but we're the most adaptable. Your world tried to kill you, Admiral said quietly. Every day, Bora said, for millions of years, so we learned to survive. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. I must report this to the Confederacy Council. They will want to know what happened here. Of course, said. The Admiral left but stayed behind. May I ask you something personal, Captain? Go ahead. When you were in the reactor chamber, what were you thinking? Were you afraid? Considered the question. I was uncomfortable. It was very hot, but afraid. No, I knew my body could handle it. Humans have worked in hot environments for thousands of years. Foundries, forges, engine rooms. My own grandfather worked in a steel mill where the temperatures regularly exceeded 150 degrees. And he survived. He worked there for 40 years, said. Retired at 65, lived to 93. Shook his head in amazement. We have much to learn about your species. Over the next 3 days, word spread through the galactic community. A human had survived heat that killed trained soldiers. Scientists from a dozen different species requested medical data. They wanted to understand how such a thing was possible. Agreed to additional tests. She ran on a treadmill while doctors measured her cooling efficiency. She sat in a heat chamber while they recorded her body's response. She answered endless questions about Earth's climate and human evolution. The results shocked the scientific community. Humans could function in environments ranging from -40 degrees to +50 degrees without protective equipment. They could survive even more extreme temperatures for short periods. They had exceptional endurance over long distances. Their bodies could process an enormous variety of foods, from plants to meat to substances that would poison most species. A biologist named Senna published a paper titled The Hypothesis. In it, she proposed that Earth was not a gentle world at all. It was one of the harshest planets in the known galaxy to produce intelligent life. Most intelligent species evolved on stable worlds with moderate temperatures and abundant resources. They specialized for their specific environment. But Earth was chaos. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts, massive predators, deadly diseases. The climate swung wildly across seasons and locations. So humans became generalists. They learned to adapt to anything. They learned to endure what other species could not. The paper went viral across the galactic community. Humans became objects of intense curiosity. Some species were frightened. If humans could survive such extremes, what else could they do? Admiral called to his office 1 week after the reactor incident. The Admiral's office was cooler now, adjusted to accommodate human guests. "Your people are famous now," the Admiral said. "Every news channel in the Confederacy is discussing the human who walked through fire." "I just did my job," said. "You did the impossible," the Admiral corrected, "and you made it look easy. That frightens some people." "Does it frighten you?" Admiral leaned back in his chair. "No, it makes me grateful. Grateful that humans joined the Confederacy as friends and not enemies." He pulled up a star map on his display. "I received a message from the Confederacy Council. They want to know if you would be willing to assist with other dangerous situations, places where normal species cannot survive." "What kind of situations?" "Rescue operations on hostile worlds, repairs in extreme environments, exploration of planets that were previously considered uninhabitable." He looked at her directly. "The Confederacy has hundreds of worlds that we cannot access because of environmental extremes, but perhaps humans can." Thought about it. She thought about all the places in the galaxy that other species avoided because they were too hot or too cold or too dangerous. All the problems that remained unsolved because no one could survive long enough to fix them. "I'll need a bigger team," she said. "You shall have it. The Council is authorizing the formation of a special operations unit. Humans only. You will go where others cannot. You will do what others cannot do." "What will they call this unit?" Admiral smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "They are calling it the Endurance Corps." "Like the sound of that." That night, she sat with Yang and Bora in their quarters. They looked out through a window at the orange sky of 7. "We're famous," Yang said. "My family back home saw the news broadcasts. My mother cried. My father wants to know if I can get the Admiral's autograph." Bora laughed. "My sister sent me a message. She says they're teaching about us in schools now, about how humans evolved to survive." "How do you feel about that?" asked. "Proud," Bora said. "We spent so long thinking we were weak compared to other species. They have better technology, bigger ships, longer lives, but we have something they don't." "What's that?" "We survive," Bora said simply. Looked out at the brutal, beautiful world below, a planet that tried to kill everything on it, a place where other species needed special suits and constant cooling just to exist. And she had walked through its hottest chamber wearing nothing but a tank top and work pants. "My grandfather used to say something," said quietly. "He said that humans are like iron. Heat doesn't destroy us, it makes us stronger." "Is that really what he said?" Yang asked. "No," admitted, "but it sounds like something he would have said." They laughed together. 3 humans sitting on an alien world, representatives of a species that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. Tomorrow, they would begin planning the Endurance Corps. They would recruit more humans. They would train for missions in impossible places. But tonight, they simply enjoyed the fact that they had proven something important. Humans belonged in the stars, and nothing, not heat, not cold, not danger, would stop them from going wherever they needed to go. Admiral's words echoed in his mind. "Your world tried to kill you, so you became unkillable." She smiled at that. It was not quite true. Humans could die. They were mortal, fragile in many ways. But they could endure, they could adapt, they could survive. And in a galaxy full of specialized species who needed perfect conditions to thrive, that made humans something special. That made them survivors. And survivors knew would inherit the stars. 3 months after the reactor incident, was training a new group of humans for the Endurance Corps. 20 men and women from Earth, all volunteers, all chosen for their physical resilience and mental toughness. They practiced in simulation chambers that recreated hostile environments from across the galaxy. The emergency call came during a training session in the cold chamber. Was watching her team work in -30-degree conditions when Admiral's face appeared on every screen in the facility. "Captain, we have a situation. I am sending you the details now. We need human assistance immediately." The training stopped. Everyone gathered around as pulled up the information on her data pad. A colony ship, the Prosperity, was in crisis. The ship carried 3,000 civilians, including 500 children. They were traveling to a new settlement world when their life support system failed catastrophically. Primary power was gone. Backup systems were dying. The ship was intact but losing all environmental controls. "What's happening to the temperature?" Yang asked, reading over his shoulder. "It's going crazy," said. "Some sections are dropping below freezing. Others are heating up past the tolerance range, and it's getting worse." "How long until rescue ships arrive?" Bora asked. 48 hours, said. They can't survive that long in those conditions. A new message appeared on the screen. It was from Admiral personally, addressed to Captain. The Confederacy Council has authorized emergency deployment of the Endurance Corps. You have full authority. Save our people. Looked at her team. 20 humans, trained but untested in real crisis conditions. She looked at Yang and Bora, who had been with her since the beginning. How fast can we launch? She asked. Transport ship can be ready in 1 hour, Bora said. She was already moving toward the equipment lockers. We'll need thermal gear for the cold sections. Minimal gear, said. We need to be mobile. Pack water, food, and medical supplies, nothing else. Captain, one of the new recruits, spoke up. His name was One, a former firefighter from. What exactly are we walking into? Hell, said simply. But we're humans, we can handle hell. The transport ship made the jump to the Prosperity's location in 3 hours. As they approached, could see the colony ship drifting in space. It was massive, designed to carry thousands of people across vast distances. But now its lights flickered irregularly, and frost was forming on parts of the hull. The ship still structurally sound, their pilot reported. But thermal scans show temperature variations across the ship. Some sections are reading -40 degrees. Others are over 130 degrees. Can we dock? Asked. Yes, but once you're inside, you'll be trapped until you restore power or the rescue ships arrive. That's fine. We're not leaving until everyone is safe. They docked at an airlock near the ship's center. The moment the doors opened, they felt the temperature instability. Waves of heat mixed with waves of cold, creating a disorienting environment. A group met them at the airlock. They were huddled together, wrapped in emergency blankets, their cooling suits long since depleted. The leader, a female named Tessa, looked at the humans with desperate hope. Captain, thank the ancestors. We have people trapped all over the ship. Some are in sections that are too hot. Some are in sections that are too cold. We cannot reach them. We cannot survive in those temperatures. Show me a map, said. Tessa pulled up a schematic on a portable display. The ship had 12 major sections. 4 were in the survivable temperature range where the remaining had gathered. 8 were in extreme conditions, and those sections still held over 800 who could not escape. The children are here, Tessa pointed to a section on the lower decks. The nursery. The temperature dropped suddenly and sealed the doors. We can hear them on the communications, but we cannot reach them. It is -35 degrees in that section. Felt her chest tighten. Children trapped in freezing conditions. Bora, take 5 people and get to that nursery. Get those children out. She turned to Yang. I need you to assess the power systems. Can we restore environmental controls? I'll try, Yang said, but I'll need to access the engine room. According to this map, that section is currently at 128 degrees. Take 1 and 2 others, be careful. What will you do? Tessa asked. I'm going to get everyone else to safety, said. How many are still in the danger zones? 843, Tessa said quietly. Divided her team. They split into 5 groups, each heading to different sections of the ship. They carried basic communication devices and medical supplies. They wore standard uniforms, nothing more. They watched them go with expressions of amazement and disbelief. Bora led her team through corridors that grew colder with each step. Frost covered the walls. Their breath came out invisible clouds. The temperature gauge on the wall read -32 degrees and dropping. "How are you all feeling?" Bora asked her team. "Cold," one of them said. Her name was One, a former mountain rescue specialist. "But manageable." They reached the nursery door. It was sealed shut, frozen in place. Bora could hear crying from the other side, small voices, frightened. "We need to force this door open," Bora said. They worked together, using emergency tools to pry at the door mechanism. The metal was so cold it burned to touch, but they persisted. After 10 minutes of effort, the door groaned and began to move. Inside, they found 50 children huddled together for warmth. The children were in bad condition, their scales dulled, their movements slow. Hypothermia was setting in. "We're here to help," Bora said gently. She and her team began wrapping the children in emergency blankets, checking each one for injuries. One of the teachers was with them, barely conscious. "You came," she whispered. "In this cold you came." "Of course we came," one said, helping to lift a child. "Let's get everyone out of here." They made multiple trips, carrying children who could not walk, guiding those who could. The cold was intense, but the humans pushed through it. Their bodies shivered, generating heat. Their breath came faster, increasing oxygen flow. They adapted. In the engine room, Yang worked on the power systems while sweat poured down his face. The temperature here was 130 degrees and climbing. One and the others helped him move equipment and access repair panels. "The main reactor is offline," Yang said, reading diagnostic screens. "But I can reroute power from the auxiliary systems. It won't restore full environmental controls, but it might stabilize the temperature swings." "How long will it take?" one asked. 20 minutes if everything goes right. Longer if we run into problems." "Then let's make sure everything goes right," one said. They worked quickly despite the heat. Sweat soaked their clothes. Their faces turned red. But their hands remained steady as they reconnected power cables and rerouted energy flows. Throughout the ship, the other human teams were moving civilians to the safe zones. They carried people who had collapsed from heat exhaustion. They guided people who were disoriented from the cold. They moved through sections that jumped from freezing to scorching and back again. Personally led the rescue from the section with the most trapped. The temperature there varied wildly, from -20 to +100 within the same corridor. It was chaos, but moved through it like she was walking through a park. She found an elderly male collapsed near a sealed door. His breathing was shallow. She lifted him, surprised at how light he felt despite his size, and carried him toward safety. "You should not be able to do this," he murmured weakly. "The cold, the heat, no one can endure both." "I'm human," said. "We endure." After 45 minutes of intense work, Yang's voice came through everyone's communication devices. I've got power rerouting, environmental systems coming back online. Temperature should stabilize in the next hour. A cheer went up from the who had been rescued. Throughout the ship, the humans continued their work, bringing the last of the trapped civilians to safety. When the final count was completed, all 3,000 were accounted for. Not a single fatality. Some had injuries from the temperature extremes, but everyone had survived. The medical staff worked to treat the injured, but they kept looking at the humans with awe. The humans were tired, some shivering from the cold sections, others red-faced from the heat, but none were seriously injured. Tessa approached as she sat drinking water and eating emergency rations. "You saved everyone," Tessa said. "My daughter was in that nursery. Your people walked through temperatures that would have killed any to save her, to save all of us." "That's what we do," said simply. "How?" Tessa asked. "How can you survive both extreme cold and extreme heat? It defies logic." "Human bodies are efficient," explained. "In the cold, we shiver to generate heat. Our blood vessels constrict to keep warmth in our core. In the heat, we sweat to cool down. Our blood vessels expand to release heat. We're not the best at either extreme, but we're good enough at both." "Good enough saved 843 lives today," Tessa said. The rescue ships arrived 26 hours later. By then, Yang had managed to restore partial power to the Prosperity. The ship could be towed to a repair station. Admiral was on one of the rescue ships. He came aboard and found in the ship's common area, surrounded by civilians who wanted to thank her. "Captain," the Admiral said, "I received reports of what happened here. Once again, you have done the impossible." "We just did our job," said. "You walked through fire to save my people on 7, Admiral said. Now you walked through ice and fire both to save 3,000 more. The Confederacy Council asks me what humans are capable of. I tell them I do not know. Every time I think I understand your limits, you show me there are none." "We have limits," said. "We're just very good at pushing them." Admiral looked around at the civilians, at the human team members who had risked everything to save strangers. "When your species first requested to join the Confederacy, many of us were skeptical. We thought you were too fragile, too young, too inexperienced. We were going to reject your application." "What changed your mind?" asked. "You did," Admiral said. "You and your team. You have shown us what humans really are. Not fragile creatures from a gentle world, but survivors from a world that tried to kill you every day. Warriors who walk through hell itself to protect others." He placed his hand over his heart in the gesture of deep respect. "The Confederacy Council has made a decision. Humanity is no longer a probationary member. You are granted full membership, with all rights and privileges. And the Endurance Corps is officially recognized as an elite unit of the Confederacy military." Stood and returned the gesture. "We are honored." "It is we who are honored," Admiral said. "To have humans as our allies, our friends. Tell me, Captain, what will your people do next?" Looked at her team, at Yang, who had worked in impossible heat to restore power, at Bora, who had walked through freezing cold to save children, at all the humans who had proven today that they belonged among the stars. Whatever needs to be done, said. We'll go wherever we're needed. We'll face whatever challenges come, because that's what humans do. We survive, we adapt, we endure. And we protect those who cannot protect themselves, Bora added. Admiral nodded slowly. The galaxy is fortunate to have found you. I suspect you will change everything. Maybe, said, or maybe we'll just do our part, one mission at a time. But deep down, she knew the Admiral was right. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and nothing would ever be quite the same. 6 months had passed since the colony ship rescue. The Endurance Corps had grown to 200 members, all human, all trained to operate in extreme environments. They had completed 17 missions across the Confederacy, each one in conditions that would have killed any other species. Stood in the observation deck of the new Endurance Corps headquarters, a station built in orbit around a neutral world. The station had facilities for training, medical research, and equipment development. It was a symbol of how much had changed since that day in the reactor chamber. The door opened, and Admiral entered. He had requested this meeting personally. Captain, he said, or should I say Commander now, I heard about your promotion. Is fine, she said. You've earned the right to use my first name. The Admiral moved to stand beside her at the window. Together, they watched ships from dozens of species pass by, traveling to various destinations across the galaxy. I came to show you something, Admiral said. He handed her a data pad. This is the new Confederacy Survival Manual. It is issued to every ship captain, every colony administrator, every military commander. Scrolled through the document. It was comprehensive, covering emergency procedures for dozens of different scenarios. But one section made her stop. It was titled, Human Capabilities and Deployment Protocols. We added an entire section about humans, Admiral said. About what your species can do, about when to request human assistance. Read through it. The section detailed human temperature tolerance, endurance capabilities, dietary flexibility, and healing rates. It included protocols for working with human teams and understanding human biology. This is being distributed to the entire Confederacy, asked. Every member world, Admiral confirmed. So that no one makes the same mistake I did, so that no one underestimates humans again. You weren't wrong to be skeptical, said. We were new, unknown, you had no reason to trust us. I was arrogant, the Admiral said. I looked at your species and saw only limitations. I did not see potential, I did not see strength. He gestured out the window at the passing ships. Do you know what the other species call humans now? In their own languages, translated to Confederacy standard. What? The call UN. It means those who walk through fire. The Ice World species call you hen. It means those who defy temperature. They have a longer name that translates to the species that should not survive but does. Smiled. That last one is accurate. They are all accurate, Admiral said. In 6 months, your Endurance Corps has rescued people from burning ships, frozen colonies, toxic atmosphere leaks, and radiation zones. You have gone places that were considered permanently inaccessible. You have solved problems that we thought were unsolvable." He turned to face her directly. "The Confederacy Council asked me to speak with you about expansion. They want to know if humanity would be willing to take on a larger role in crisis response operations." "What kind of role?" "A primary role. When disasters occur in extreme environments, humans would be the first responders. You would have authority to coordinate rescue operations across multiple species. You would be, essentially, the galaxy's emergency specialists." Considered this carefully. That's a lot of responsibility. Your species has earned it, more than earned it. I'll need to discuss this with my team, and with Earth's government. Of course, take your time, but know that the entire Confederacy supports this. After what you did on the Prosperity, after what you did on Seven, no one doubts human capability anymore. A communication alert sounded. Checked her device. It was Yang calling from the training section. "Commander, we have a situation. Not an emergency, but something you should see." "I'll be right there," said. She looked at Admiral. "Want to see what humans are working on?" "Always," the Admiral said. They walked through the station to the training center. Inside, they found Yang and Bora overseeing a group of 20 humans who were working in an environment that made Admiral stop in shock. The training chamber was divided into sections. One section was heated to 150 degrees. Another section was cooled to -40 degrees. A third section had reduced oxygen levels. A fourth section combined high heat with high humidity. The humans moved between these sections, practicing equipment repairs, rescue procedures, and communication protocols. They wore minimal protective gear, just basic uniforms and safety equipment. "What is this?" Admiral asked. "Multi-environment endurance training," Yang explained. "We figured if humans are going to be crisis responders, we need to be able to move between extreme environments quickly without stopping to adjust." "Is that possible?" "For humans, yes," Bora said. "It's not comfortable, but we can do it." One of the trainees, a young woman named, emerged from the freezing section and immediately entered the hot section. She was shivering from the cold, but within 30 seconds in the heat, her body began to adapt. Sweat replaced shivers. Her movements became steady again. "The human body is remarkably adaptable," Yang said. "We're teaching our teams to use that adaptability actively, to push the boundaries of what we can do." Admiral watched in silence. After a few minutes, he spoke quietly. "When I first met humans, I thought you were the weakest species in the Confederacy, fragile, needing protection." "And now?" asked. "Now I think you might be the strongest, not in physical power but in resilience, in the ability to survive anything." He paused. "I think that is a different kind of strength, perhaps a more important kind." Completed her training exercise and came over to get water. She was breathing hard but smiling. "How do you feel?" asked her. "Alive," said. "Every time I do this training, I remember why I volunteered. Because humans can do things that no one else can. Because we can save lives that would otherwise be lost." "That is exactly why we need you," Admiral said. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Accidents happen, disasters occur. And when they do, people die because no one can reach them in time, no one can survive the conditions long enough to help. He looked at all the humans in the training center. But now we have humans. Now we have hope. An alarm sounded throughout the station. It was the emergency alert, calling all Endurance Corps members to the briefing room. "This is it," Bora said. "Real mission." They all moved quickly to the briefing room. Within 5 minutes, the entire 200 members of the Endurance Corps were assembled. A holographic display showed a planet on the edge of Confederacy space. "4," the briefing officer explained. "A mining colony with 1,200 workers. They've detected a volcanic eruption that will hit the colony in approximately 8 hours. The surface temperature in the eruption zone will exceed 200 degrees. Toxic gases will make breathing impossible for most species." "Evacuation?" someone asked. "Their transport ships were destroyed in the initial eruption. They're trapped. Confederacy rescue ships cannot land in those conditions. The ground is too unstable and the heat is too extreme." "Stood, how many humans can we get there in 8 hours?" 50, the officer said. "That's the maximum our fastest transport can carry." "Then we take 50, said. She looked at her team. "Volunteers only. This is going to be dangerous." Every single hand in the room went up. Felt a surge of pride. She picked the 50 who were best trained for volcanic conditions, including Yang, Bora, 1, and... As they prepared to depart, Admiral approached one last time. 8 months ago, I told you that no one could endure extreme heat. You proved me wrong." "We proved you wrong together," said. "If you hadn't given me the chance, I couldn't have shown you what humans can do." "Then let me say this now, before you go face another impossible situation." The Admiral placed his hand over his heart. "Thank you for showing us. Thank you for teaching us that the universe is not limited by what we thought was possible. Thank you for being human." Return the gesture. "Thank you for accepting us, for giving us a place among the stars." She turned to her team. They were loading equipment onto the transport ship, checking their gear, preparing for a mission that would take them into conditions that most species would consider certain death. But they were humans. They were survivors. Yang came over, adjusting his equipment harness, ready to walk through another fire commander. "Always," said. Bora joined them. "I was thinking about what you said to Admiral, about humans belonging in the stars." "What about it?" "I think we don't just belong here. I think we were meant to be here. Think about it. Earth spent millions of years preparing us for this. Every heat wave taught us to survive fire. Every ice age taught us to survive cold. Every disaster, every challenge, every difficulty made us stronger." "Earth was training us," said, overhearing, "training us to survive anywhere." "Maybe," said, "or maybe we're just too stubborn to quit." They all laughed at that. The transport ship was ready. The 50 humans boarded, carrying minimal equipment, wearing simple uniforms. They would fly to 4, land in the middle of a volcanic eruption zone, and rescue 1,200 people from conditions that should be impossible to survive. And they would succeed, knew they would succeed. Because they were human, because they were survivors, because their whole evolution, their entire history, had prepared them for exactly this moment. As the transport ship launched, looked back at the station, Admiral stood at the observation window, watching them go. She raised her hand in farewell. The Admiral returned the gesture. Then the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, and the station disappeared from view. 8 hours to 4, the pilot announced. Settled into her seat, around her the other humans were calm, focused. Some reviewed data about the mission. Some checked their equipment. Some simply closed their eyes to rest before the challenge ahead. She thought about Admiral's question from earlier. What will humans do next? The answer was simple. They would do what they had always done. They would survive. They would adapt. They would face challenges that seemed impossible and overcome them anyway. They would walk through fire if they needed to, through ice if they needed to, through vacuum and radiation and toxic atmospheres and everything else the galaxy could throw at them. Because that was what humans did. Earth had tried to kill them for millions of years. It had thrown ice ages and volcanoes and droughts and predators at them. It had tested them with disease and starvation and extreme climates. And humans had survived all of it. They had thrived. They had become a species that could adapt to anything, endure anything, overcome anything. Now they were among the stars, and the stars would learn the same lesson that Earth had learned long ago. You cannot kill humanity. You can challenge them, test them, push them to their limits. But they will survive. They always survive. Looked at her team, at these 50 humans who were flying toward a volcanic hell to save people they had never met. "What are you thinking about, Commander?" Yang asked. Smiled. "I'm thinking about what Admiral said, about how humans have surprised the galaxy." "You think we'll keep surprising them?" "I know we will," said, "because they still have no idea what we're really capable of." "What are we capable of?" Bora asked. Thought about it. She thought about Earth, about human history, about everything her species had survived and overcome. "Anything," she said finally. "Absolutely anything." The ship flew on through the darkness between stars, carrying 50 humans toward their next impossible mission. And somewhere behind them, Admiral watched from his observation deck and wondered what other surprises humanity had waiting for the galaxy. He suspected he would find out soon enough. After all, humans had only been in space for a few short years. They had only been in the Confederacy for months. And they had already changed everything. What would they do with decades, with centuries? Admiral smiled, his reptilian features arranging into an expression of anticipation. The galaxy was about to find out. And it would never be the same again.